At its highest point, corruption swept Chicago without detection. Over a century ago in New York City, a brilliant man created an empire of innovation. This empire was intended to connect human beings around the world and provide never-ending access to infinite knowledge. This man was Steve Jobs. While on the outskirts of town, another man began a project of his own.
Steve built Apple headquarters from the ground up with nothing but a passion for technology for the betterment of the human race. Jobs desired to provide all people with access to information no matter the setbacks or discrimination they faced. The convenient obtainability leveled the playing field and allowed everyone who has the motivation to gain success.
But with every great advancement comes great repercussion. This large internet platform, serving as a modern-day World Fair, attracted people across the globe and allowed them to communicate virtually anywhere. This man took advantage of Jobs' creation to use for his own selfish agenda. He committed numerous acts of fraud, drug trafficking, illegal distribution of weapons, child pornography, and was known to be the head facilitator of the deep, dark web. Although on the outside, the creation of these new technological inventions appeared evolutionary and human intelligence seemed to be at its highest point, society was blinded by the great light Apple's breakthrough had shined throughout the world. They are not aware of the dark actions taking place behind closed doors.
All the arguments presented in this parallel storyline about the adverse effects of a worldwide attraction can also be seen throughout Erik Larson's novel, The Devil in the White City. Through the two lives of the world's first serial killer, H.H. Holmes, and the architect of the Worldwide Fair, Daniel Hudson Burnham.
If this plotline fascinates you, feel free to check out Devil in the White City from your local bookstore or library.
The Gilded Age was a time in American history where the government took a more hands-off regulatory approach to governing, and as a result, political bosses and machines gained control of the cities and were kept in office through unethical means. They often preyed upon new-coming immigrants by providing them with basic life necessities. And in return, the immigrants must vote to keep them in office. Larson exemplifies this theme of corruption through the dirty politician Mayor Harrison, who advocated for the creation of brothels, saloons, and gambling dens in order to gain revenue. By doing this, Chicago soon became a place that tolerated and even grew accustomed to these obscene institutions.
During the Gilded Age, large masses of migrants moved to urban cities with large hope and motivation to find new economic opportunities. Due to the large influx of people into the city, many issues arose, such as unemployment and overcrowding. Many were forced to live in worn-down tenements that had dangerous living conditions that put the people's health at risk. Labor unions were formed to help the workers with difficulties such as low pay, unsafe or unsanitary working conditions, long hours, and other situations that put their livelihood at risk. In The Devil in the White City, Erik Larson exemplifies these societal and economic issues through the chaos described with the construction of the World Fair in Chicago. The architects were forced to work on a tight schedule for various reasons, such as weather, geography, money, and simply short notice of the assigned opening day of the fair. This made the construction much more vigorous and dangerous for the workers, and labor strikes and riots began to occur due to the long and extended hours for the workers were forced to put into the fair without additional pay. Disease and crime would disperse as the city struggled to support the growing population with insufficient infrastructure. The continuance of the numerous and overwhelming issues Chicago endured during the uprising of industrialization allowed for the ease of corruption to arise and violence, death, and devil-like behavior to occur without being noticed. The novel shined light on two contrasting subjects: the immense possibility and potential that America had improved through the fair, and the cruel, mechanized ways of an industrialized society struggling to keep up with its own expansions.
Though this story takes place over a century ago, the corruption portrayed is still prominent today. Whether it's corporations secretly giving parties large amounts of money, skewed elections, constant lies, or the withdrawal of human rights. The innocent go to jail because they can't afford the biggest lawyers, and the painstakingly obvious criminals, O.J. Simpson, get away with murder because they're famous. Over 92% of 8th graders in Detroit's public schools aren't proficient in math or reading because the wealthy counties always get the best education. The U.S. government caters only to those who can benefit from. Eric Larson exemplifies this corruption through Devil in the White City. The corruption of the government is shown starting in the first couple pages. Chicago only pines to hold the World Fair because they wanted to show off and prove that they are just as good as the Eastern American cities. Larson tells that during the first time of the World Fair, it was very easy to disappear. Chicago's government became consumed with the idea of proving themselves, that they had become blind to all the crime happening right under their noses. The only reason Holmes was able to get away with building a hotel in the middle of all the commotion was that the government was only worried about profit. The government in the 1800s still holds the same values as the 2017 government in the way both only lend aid to upper-class citizens who they can take advantage of.
What you're about to see are the traits that connect today's serial killers to yesterday's in relation to Devil in the White City by Eric Larson. It is not uncommon for one often in isolation to later display high rates of aggression and compulsive lying. As a result of bullying, some victims turn on their aggressors and then go from the hunted to the hunter. A study by the FBI entails that extremely traumatic childhoods riddled with physical, verbal, and sexual abuse are not uncommon. Serial killers kill animals or even torture them before moving on to humans. This provides them target practice, you could say. Let us now recount the life and destruction of Jeffrey Dahmer through his eyes, as this proceeds. Dahmer grew up in a family that offered him nothing but extreme tension, as he became neglected and reserved as a child. Dahmer later manifested an interest in animals. He would collect animal carcasses from the roadside and dismember them either at home or behind the woodlands. During the Gilded Age, another man by the name of H. Holmes will also experience but a different side of the serial killer spectrum. Born to a violent alcoholic father, Holmes excelled in school, although he was bullied by classmates. Fueled by traumatic experiences, each man in his respective time period held peace society as the good, bad, and ugly.